Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
My name is Linda and I am an alcoholic. Hi. It's nice to be here. Thanks, Branny, for inviting me. Thank you for speaking. It's nice to hear you. Nice to see you. I want to welcome anybody who's new to Alcoholics Anonymous and wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. It's nice to be here. Hi. Oh my gosh, I was very nervous to get up here. I've overdone it on the sugar. I've overdone it on the Thanksgiving sugar. And I'm really glad I didn't grab that fifth brownie as I was leaving my friend's house. I'm just surged with food, and I didn't go running this morning, and I just kind of ate. I overdid it. So I was driving over here, and I thought I'm in kind of a blackout, and it scared me. You know, I was driving down Lincoln, and I got to Washington, and I thought I didn't even remember, driving, and I thought I used to pay a lot of money to get this way. I used to pay a lot of money, a lot of energy, just to drink a lot, take a lot of stuff to get like this. And my sobriety date is August 22nd, 1985. And it's not possible for somebody like me, to be sober 18 years. And because I always had to have something in me. If I overshoot the mark with, which I did today, caffeine and sugar and dairy, all things that kind of screw up my system, I feel like, did I just undo it? Okay. Sorry about that. I feel like I do, tonight, just really kind of whacked out. But anyway, I'm really grateful to be in a meeting and grateful I came early enough to sort of just get centered and to welcome anybody new to Alcoholics Anonymous. I love to drink. I spend a lot of energy around drinking alcohol. I really like to drink vodka. I'm a very nervous person by nature. On a good day, I'm angry and frightened. And I have a current that just kind of runs through me. I have a terribly nervous disposition. And what happens for me when I drink is it collects me. Alcohol just kind of collects me. I typically feel on a good day like I'm just going to explode. I typically feel on a good day like I'm just going to do something that I can't really predict. And when I drink, alcohol just collects me. And I didn't start out drinking vodka. I started out drinking Boone's Farm Strawberry Hill or Annie Greensprings. And if you ever drank that, it's nasty going down and it's nastier coming up. And it always comes up. When you drink like I do, it always comes up. I used to drink, I always carried a big purse because I always stole a lot of things on my excursions in the world. I typically like to empty your medicine cabinet of whatever is in there, and I carried I happen to have a big purse tonight, but I wasn't emptying anybody's medicine cabinet. I don't know what's in here. I got this at a thrift shop. But typically I carry little purses, and it's just kind of funny. Anyway, it doesn't mean anything. If I don't make any sense tonight, just know there's just caffeine and brownies and sugar just surging through my mind, I'm just kind of doing the best I can up here tonight. So I would drink, I had this big purse, and I would carry a bottle in my purse, and I carried this mug. I ran this party hotline, dial a party, you called this number, and you got parties. And what parties consisted of were, somebody provided a house, a trash can, a stereo, and if you're lucky, a keg. Not very sophisticated, but it was the forgivable 70s. Anyway, So I always carried this mug that said "Dial a Party," so you knew who I was. It was this big pewter mug. It's the only remnants of my drinking that I still have. All the paraphernalia has been gone for a lot of years. And then I had this purse that, had this bottle that I carried. And, I would just guzzle that stuff. And it was, I looked like the Breck girl. I had this long, beautiful brown hair and, these crazy, bizarre outfits. And, I was like, I drink and I drink this stuff. And it's so nasty going down. There's so much sugar in it. And I would never eat, maybe coat my stomach with, a bite of food going out. And, and then I'd be throwing up, and I always had, Banaka and lipstick and mascara, and I had in this purse all the accoutrements I needed so that I could clean myself up after I threw up in my hair, and I'd throw up in my hair, or I'd be in your car on a date, and the wind, and I'd feel like I needed to throw up, and the window would come down, and my hair was long, and I'd be throwing up, and the wind would carry the throw up in my hair, and then I'd sort of collect myself and then, go on to what I thought was sort of polite and civilized conversation and be really, really expect you to just think that everything was okay, and be really surprised the next day or wonder why you weren't going to call me, and, are you going to call, Yeah, and a lot of times they did, it was shocking, surprising. A lot of times these guys called me the next day for another date, another fun time with Linda. And a lot of times it was a lot of fun. It was just, I love to get in a lot of trouble. I can't predict my behavior when I start to drink. I take a drink and the drink takes a drink. And when the drink takes a drink, I don't really know where I'm going to go, and I don't really care. Sometimes I have a couple of drinks and act civilized, and sometimes I light up a joint in the middle of Ventura Boulevard in Studio City at a jazz club and go face down in my spaghetti. I don't know. Sometimes I deal narcotics at the table. Sometimes I leave with somebody I didn't walk in with. Sometimes I leave you at the table. Sometimes I get fed up. Sometimes I get in my car and drive drunk. Once I take a drink, the drink takes a drink, I have no idea what I'm going to do. That's what alcohol does for me. And when I'm not drinking, I've got this mind that is just cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. I've always been that way. Wow, that's a weird sound. Take that outside. What was that? I guess a phone. I hope it was a phone. Anyway. Good Lord. So I have this mind that just, I would just concoct things. I was living with my mom in the San Fernando Valley. I didn't want to be living in the San Fernando Valley. I didn't want to be living with my mom. I didn't like this family. I had this idea because books were my first addiction. I like to read and compose these very bizarre stories. And my most outlandish was that I should have been an aristocrat living, in a something, somewhere, anywhere other than the San Fernando Valley. And it had a moat. There was always a moat in my stories, like with water underneath it. These bizarre, outrageous stories that I thought, that's... So anyway, it was anywhere to be other than where I was. I didn't think I should be where I was, whether it was in that house in the San Fernando Valley or whether it was with my brother or with my boyfriend or on a date. I'm just somebody who always wants to be anywhere other than where I am, including right now, to be perfectly honest with you. Anyway, and that's the magic of alcohol for me, is that it just allows me to be anywhere other than where I am, and I love to mix, I am an alcoholic. I don't identify as a drug addict because I'm not powerless over narcotics. But just to tell you, I did love to combine vodka with Quaaludes, Placidols, Reds, or Valium. I do love that. I love to be completely out. I hated smoking pot, and I smoked a lot of that. I have no idea why. I'm not very interested. I must have been interested in being awake. I'm not. I don't know. I don't liken myself to be somebody who's interested in being awake. But I guess I did go through a period, and I did massive amounts of black beauties, which just kept me up, staring in the mirror, picking at my skin, cleaning the house, gritting my teeth, picking at my split ends, and cleaning. I don't really understand why I did all that speed to be up for 3 days doing absolutely nothing and discussing things with people who we never remembered it the next day anyway because we were so strung out. But this was my life. It wasn't a big life, but it was a more glamorous life in my mind than the life that I was living, which I was just this young kid doing this. And I didn't want to be young, and I didn't want to be a kid, and I didn't want to be in the valley, and I didn't want to be where my feet were. I just basically wanted to be anywhere other than where I was all the time, except when I was drinking. I really love to drink in bars. I'm somebody who drinks before I drink. You know, I like to drink before I drink. You know, I don't understand people who like go to the bar to drink. Like, I drink getting dressed on the way to drink. And alcohol so works for me. It's just the anticipation of a drink is really great. Like, just anticipating I'm going to have a drink, I can calm down. Just walking into a bar, those dark lights, and we used to be able to, you know, smoking, and the mirror, and the music, and the guys, I can calm down. And then just sitting at a bar, I just love to sit on a bar stool. Oh, I just love that. And I like shitty bars. I like really shitty, trashy bars with scary people. I really like that. He's just laughing. I didn't look at him for that. But I was, you know, I was also a snob. I drank at Le Dome. I was not, I wasn't completely, hadn't completely lost it. I was just living in all these different worlds. And I'd get up to the bar and I just order a drink. And as I was waiting for that drink, I'd be waiting for the next drink, So sometimes I'd have to order 2 drinks because I could just feel it in my body, I could just feel it, what alcohol would do for me. It just collects me. It shuts my mind off. It makes everything okay. I don't see the gray when I drink. You're tolerable. Suddenly you're interesting. I can exhale. I can just be where I am. And then after about 3 or 4, what happens is I really don't care about anything. It just all sort of gets okay. Suddenly, it's a revolving door of who I'm sitting with and who I'm with, and I don't care about any of it. I don't care where I'm drinking, who I'm drinking with, what cigarette, I walk in arrogant and smug and self-righteous, and I walk out, I crawl out, or you have to carry me out. But I mean, going in, there's this, this alcoholic, sort of egotistical, give me a drink kind of, woman, and and then after a couple drinks, I don't really care. I just don't really care what I drink, except beer. That I was above drinking beer. I don't really understand beer. It doesn't get me there. It doesn't get me anywhere. You have to drink too much of it. You get too fat. I don't like to burp, but I do like hard liquor a whole lot. It just gets me there. So I drank for a long time, and I quit talking about the years. I feel like I've just quit talking about the years, so I'm not going to tell you how old I am or any of that. I used to. But anyway, and what happened for me is that I just drank until I couldn't drink. And if you're new in Alcoholics Anonymous, really I hope you've drank until you can't drink anymore. I hope that you've come here and you're just completely out of answers. I hope that you just are horrified with what you've done with your life, and you're just like, oh my God, it's 10:30 on Thanksgiving, and I'm with these people, some girl at a podium who can't even take off her coat, who is talking about being in a sugar blackout. What the hell's going on here? Because that's how I was. I came in August, and so I was a couple months sober by, Thanksgiving, and I was out at Radford, and everyone was all dolled up, and it was very bright, and I did over 100 hits of LSD, so, and here I'm now sober. And everything was like bright and shiny, and people had glitter and stuff in their hair, and they'd come at me, and how are you, and are you new, and they'd shake, and it would turn into like an acid trip. And I'd be like, oh my God, I'm at Radford on Thanksgiving. And there's this food, and everyone's grabbing at it, and you're licking your fingers, and are you washing your hands, and I would just go, my mind would just on and on and on, and I thought, this is why I drank. Because I've got this mind that doesn't shut up. And I can't be with you guys because I have a mind that doesn't shut up. And they say, yeah, welcome to Alcoholics Anonymous. You're suffering from alcoholism. People like you need a drink to be on the planet. So they said, keep coming back. And for me, you know, I had nowhere else to go. And if you're new and you have nowhere else to go, you know, welcome. Because I had nowhere else to go. And, you know, it's allowed me to stay here. You know, it's just allowed me to stay here. And when I say I have nowhere else to go, like, what I mean is I have nowhere else to go. You guys are the only people that I can exhale with. You're the only ones that can, like, reach me. And you know, they just said keep coming back. And I drank, you know, like I said, for a lot of years, and I couldn't drink anymore. Because when I drank, it didn't shut my mind off. The anger started to come up, the fear started to well up, and these feelings, I guess, that I was drinking over, I don't know, because I started drinking really early, and I wasn't somebody who drank over my feelings. I'm not somebody who had a life and drank it away. I was a I started drinking as a teenager. And you know, I didn't like drink away this life. I didn't have a life to drink away. And for me, what happened was, it wasn't like life was getting so bad, it just wasn't getting any better. And I didn't know how to like get my life better. I'm just amazed that people come up with ideas and like get their life better before they get to Alcoholics Anonymous. I just kept screwing up my life, you know. Making my life better meant like hanging out with somebody that I would come up, you know, I'd go, oh, let's hang out with them. And them meant getting arrested in just a different location. And so I didn't really know how to make my life better. I didn't hang out with people who had aspirations to live. I never expected to live past the age of 25. I wasn't really interested in doing much in life except being a movie star or being famous for doing nothing. I didn't want to have to exert any energy. I didn't want to have to do anything. I just wanted to sort of have a lot of money and be really famous. So I basically wanted to be like, you know, the wife of like a mafia hit guy, and I could like wear fluffy slippers and have a cigarette in one hand and a martini in the other, and wear, you know, satin gowns in a fabulous house with lots of cocaine on the table. I mean, this was just kind of my fantasy. Still is. You know, I mean, this is like where I went in my life. Like, I just couldn't bear the monotony of like the San Fernando Valley. My dad lived in the city, but I couldn't bear the monotony of the city. I just couldn't bear the mundaneness. And I was bored by 18 years old, you know. So alcohol for me, just I can drink and anything can happen. I can drink and be anybody. I can drink and be a wife. I can drink and have 3 kids killed in a plane crash, which is the stories I told this guy at the Rainbow one night, you know. I mean, I could drink and I could be, you know, somebody's, you know, famous sister. I could drink and I could be, oh, I've got, you know, liver cancer. I drink and I would just be bizarre. And I thought it was funny, and I loved to get shock value from, you know, shock. You know, I was like this living, breathing performance artist, and, you know, because there really was nothing going on. You know, I'd go to school, and that was boring, and you know, the teachers were just this monotonous, you know, the mouth would move, and I'd go to school stoned, and I just think, oh, life is so monotonous. And I felt that from a really young age. And that's why I just didn't expect to live past the age of 25. I had visions of just kind of walking into traffic, and that would be it, or overdosing, because I just thought life was really monotonous. And what happened for me is I drank round the clock in January of 1985 for 3 days in Mexico, and I just couldn't get drunk and I couldn't get sober. And I came back and I went to a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. I was working at a place near Radford out in the San Fernando Valley, and some people had gotten sober there at where I was working at CBS, and they started this meeting, and I went to this meeting, and people were talking about, you know, being so afraid that the best thing they could do was get up in the morning and call their sponsor and go to a meeting and come home and have lunch and call their sponsor and go to another meeting and take a nap. And I related to this. I really related to this, like, this structure of having these feelings and punctuating it by meetings. Like, they didn't know what to do with themselves in between meetings, except call their sponsor and have something to eat and go to a meet. Like, I just really related to this. And then I went to Chandler Lodge, and I listened to these guys talk about getting out of prison, and they were sober, but they were really angry, and the best they could do was not pick up a sharp object, and I related to this, before they wanted to strangle their wives and girlfriends, they had to get out of the house, or they'd call their sponsor. And I thought, like, these radical displays of emotion, which I really miss in Alcoholics Anonymous. I really miss it. I really miss where people are really showing who they are in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. I got sober where there was these radical displays of feelings, and I was frozen solid, and I was coming off all this stuff, so I just kind of sit there. But I related to it, and I just really loved people's honesty. Now, obviously, what I've come to find out is that they had nowhere else to take it except the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, which as a room we can absorb it. One-on-one, it's a little too much, but as a room we can totally absorb it. As a meeting we can absorb it, And so I'd be in these meetings with people who are ranting and raving, and they're so, and fights were going on the side, at Radford and Chandler Lodge, and let's take it outside, and you'd hear this screaming, and there'd be this great speaker, talking about God and the steps, and there'd be fighting outside. And I loved it, because what I saw here is that nobody could get kicked out. Nobody could get kicked out. There were all these, nobody could get kicked out of Alcoholics Anonymous. I mean, they could be escorted out if they were disturbing the meeting, but above that, because I was really afraid of, like, making a mistake here. And I don't really know if I was a good girl gone bad or a bad girl trying to be good. I've never really reconciled that, and I don't really care. But I just loved, what I saw here. And I didn't really kind of bounce in here going, woohoo, I'm an alcoholic. I had no idea what that meant, except that I just kind of went into that meeting one day as opposed to going down the street and drinking. And I just kept coming back. And, what I found here is this ability to manage this intense mind and this incredible feelings through these 12 steps. And I couldn't just keep coming to meetings and sort of talk to a sponsor. I got a lot of tough love, and I had to have people really, just like what he was talking about, really navigate my life. I mean, I have such a skewed perception of reality. My perception of reality is skewed from my drinking and from the people that raised me, also known as my parents. And, their perception of reality is quite skewed. So how I see the world is through this very kind of weird lens. And, for a lot of years in Alcoholics Anonymous, I was never sure, like people would say, hi, how you doing? And I'd say, what do you mean by that? Like, people wondered, like I was all dolled up, I'd come from work, but I had a mouth like I had gotten out of prison. You know what I mean? Like, what do you mean by that? I was very paranoid. I didn't understand what you meant. If you asked me anything outside the scope of, can I get you a cup of coffee, or how are you, anything else, I was totally confused. And people would just keep coming, you just keep coming back, and I'd be like, because I would go off. I would freak out, and again, as a room, Alcoholics Anonymous can absorb it. So, it's just amazing to me that I've stayed here for 18 years, because I am very crazy. I answer phones at central office, and JW will tell you, I have a very short fuse. And, some people I'm extremely loving and gentle and kind to, and other people I just freak out when I answer those phones. And I don't know, 18 years sober. Am I proud of it? No. Do I go down there and try and be of service and do the very best I can? Absolutely, And I really see it's a progressive disease. And I have had to go through these steps every year to keep this, to keep the disease sort of at bay, if you will. I go to a meeting a day still. I'm very involved. I answer phones at central office. I'm now a trusted servant. I work there 2 days a week. One of the guys that was there has taken sick, and they had a shift open, so I sell literature to you guys 2 days a week. I absolutely love it. I pray before I go in because I have to. because I deal with people. And I don't know how to deal in the world with you guys, you or anybody else, you know, because I've got this perception that says, what do you mean by that? You know, I think you're going to jump down my throat or something. I don't know. It's kooky crazy. But, you know, for me, what's really, really, so I was this crazy newcomer and selfish and self-centered. And everything revolved, just like what he was talking about, you know, everything revolved around what I thought you were doing to me or how it was affecting me. And, you know, what I learned here is people told me I had to get busy if I was going to get well. And I don't think they meant well like I was going to be cured. I think what they meant was like well, like so that I could just function without a drink a day at a time and without a pill and without anything mind-altering. And, you know, people would say, well, lighten up and don't take yourself so seriously. And I was very significant. Like, everything mattered. Oh, my boss, oh, let me tell you, you know, like people would be like, they'd think like, I'm going to tell them, you know, I've got cancer at any minute because everything had such depth and weight, you know what I mean? I was so terrified. That's what I found out, is that I'm such a terrified human being that everything was so monumental for me to learn how to do. And when I say new sobriety, where I got sober, they said, you know, they considered it 10 years. I know that sounds incredible, but they really did. They said it takes 5 years to even know there are 12 steps, and another 5 years to remember to use them, you know. And I was so grateful because I was still like kind of out of it at 4. I started to have feelings when I was about 3 or 4 years sober. And people said to me, don't try and get in touch with your feelings. They will get in touch with you. And I started to thaw out when I was about 4 years sober. And it was, again, like an acid trip. I was hallucinating because I had no vocabulary for them. I was just feeling them. God bless you. And these things were happening to me, and I would just, you know, my knee-jerk reaction is anger because I don't have a vocabulary for how I feel. I didn't learn it. I've had to learn that here. I'm learning that now, that not everything is just a knee-jerk. It's like, oh, maybe I'm confused or disappointed or... Oh, God, it's really hard. Anyway, so what happened is I kept coming back, and I kept coming back, and I kept coming back because I didn't have anywhere else to go. And I just fell in love with you guys. I just fell in love with your generosity, and I fell in love with your kindness, and I fell in love with your honesty. I just fell in love with you guys. I just love being here. I just like it. You just appeal to me. Collectively. Individually, it's really difficult, but collectively, collectively, I love y'all. But individually, that's why I go to Al-Anon. And so what I'm like today. So I go through the steps about every 2 years, because what I found is that it's not enough to just be showing up here and being of service. It's just not. At some point, what happened was I got very sick here, and I found out that fear was my higher power, and I had no higher power. And I found out that complaining was my higher power, and I had no higher power. And I found out that anger and lashing out was my higher power, and I had no higher power. These are different times over my sobriety. And so I had to not only get busy as in service, but I had to get into the steps. And I went through a process in the Big Book. I have gone through it several times where people have taken me through the Big Book page by page. And I've had to see my condition in sobriety. I've had to see that I suffer from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body, and that I can't keep myself sober. I'm really grateful that I know what's wrong with me. I'm really grateful that you guys know what's wrong with me. I'm really grateful that when I come into meetings and I look like a savage, loony animal, you guys will guide me to a chair and ask me if I need a cup of coffee. And prior to 62 days ago, you would light my cigarette, and I would have a cigarette and come into the meeting and just, you know, sit here with you and thaw out and exhale And you guys are the only ones that know what to do with me. And you're still, 18 years later, the only ones that know what to do with me. And I now am able to transmit that because I have that. I am able to see that in your eyes when you come into meetings, or I see you in life and you look like a savage animal. I can say, have you been to a meeting? Have you had something to eat? Do you need to talk? Can I hug you? Can I hold you? Can I get you a cup of coffee? Do you need, you know, I know that because I am that. I went to hear a friend of mine speak last night at Royal Palms, and there was a guy there, and he just got out of jail, but he was really looking great. He looked really great. He looked like he just came out of some video, right? And he's talking to me, and he's talking, right? He's checking me out, he's talking. And I said, you know, I'm going to nickname you Slick. And he's like, why? I said, because you're so slick. You just got out of jail. You're at Royal Palms, and you look like you just stepped out of a rock video. And he's like, huh? I said, you just keep coming back, Slick. And he's like, he didn't get it. And I said, he said, I don't have an image. I said, you have an image. And I had an image. I thought I had to keep up some image here, you know? I had an image. I had nothing going on. I was this punk kid, and I had to look right to just be in these rooms. So now, you know, they say if you spot it, you got it. I had that, so I can see that. And he did not get what I was talking about. You know, and I love that he didn't get it. I love that he didn't get it. And I talked to him for a little while, and he asked me to sponsor him. Wink, wink. And, you know, I've sponsored men in the past. It hasn't worked. I'm not that well. I've been sponsored by men in the past. It hasn't worked. I'm not that well. And so I don't, you know, I said, no, I can't do that. I absolutely cannot open that door. And, you know, but it was really beautiful to just talk to him. You know, it was one drunk talking to another. I don't know how he viewed it. But that's what you guys have given me, the ability to see myself sufficient to where I can be of service. I don't see myself anymore and just examine myself. I'm not really interested in my personality. My personality is very uninteresting to me. I do a lot of meditation. I do a lot of 10 steps every day. I meditate every day. Not to tell you how fabulous my program is, but because I'm that crazy that I need that, you know, and I wish I had 5 more sponsees. That's my goal by the end of the year, so that people call me and get me out of me. Because I just love being of service, which is ridiculous because I'm somebody who wanted to sit around and examine her life. I really thought that we should talk over coffee about, you know, my life. Let's go talk about my life, because we need to talk about my life. Because, you know, it's my life. It's important. You know, it's my life. You know, like that was the significance with which I sort of had this, and I don't have that. These clocks are different. Brandy, which one do I go by? Okay. So, you know, that's like amazing. The steps have turned me out into a person who, like, I'm not that interested. My life is what it is today. It's very imperfect. I don't have anything I want. I have everything I need. And it's completely uncertain. And, you know, my day started today. Usually I go down, but I go to the mission every Thanksgiving. I'll close with this. And they have so many people down there. They don't need, you know, they didn't need us. I go down with a friend of mine and some of his friends, and they said, well, there are just too many people. So, you know, I was like, what do I do, you know? And I called a bunch of people a couple weeks ago, you know, hey, I'm doing my Christmas card list, call me with your address. And just last night, I was thinking, how come they haven't called me back? I was like, you know, my life. Anyway, so I got a call today that a girl I saw got sober. I had called and said, hey, it's Linda, just, you know, doing my Christmas card list, call me back with your address. And I got a call from her sister that said, you know, I'm sorry, yeah, Nancy died last Wednesday. You knew Nancy Boykus, Nancy B. She had cancer for a couple of years. She struggled. She was young, and she was sober 13 years. And she talked about it in meetings and shared about it pretty, you know, and that, like, it just bowled me over. You know, suddenly my perfect brownies that I was making were completely insignificant. And the Thai food that I had just tried making and ruined, by the way, was completely insignificant. And I just sat on my couch and I thought, oh my gosh, because she wasn't dead last year when, you know, we talked over this. So anyway, it's not to end my deal on a downer, but I need this kind of perception because I don't have it. And so I come to meetings and I'm with you guys a lot to have a right perception about life. I can have it be making things about, are they going to like my brownies? And then I find out someone passed and I go, oh yeah, like I'm alive today. I may not be here next year. But anyway, so I don't want to leave on that note. I'm extremely grateful to be sober. I don't have another drunk or recovery in me. I keep coming back because I don't want to go away. I don't ever want to drink again. I don't want to ever go back to the hell and the loneliness from which I come. I come from a place of no answers, and you guys have them for me. Thank you.
I think we got a great talk going on here. Thanks for watching the channel. Taper Dave here. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with. And it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst and one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, oop, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.